Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Doodles to Dazzle. I'm Charlie,
And I'm Barbara.
and today we're going to be talking about strategies of self-learning.
That's right, we're gonna unveil some tips and tricks on how we have taught ourselves some new skills and how we have pursued our passion and unleashed our creativity.
All right, so without any further delay, let's get down into the importance of lifelong learning.
Let's dive in.
All right, so for us, learning, it's a lifelong process. This is like one of those mantras you need to put it on a poster and just put it on your wall. And because firstly, you need to understand and be okay and come to terms with that concept is you'll never be done learning. And that's something, if you understand that, you're always going to keep growing. You're always going to reach new heights of mastery and success.
Yes, and also I would say you can learn from everybody.
Yes.
That's another thing. Like one of the things that I do is whenever I see somebody that inspires me, I'm looking for their inspiration also. Usually somewhere they will tell about, oh, these people inspired me. I go look to that also. That helps me to kind of broaden my mind and get some new influences and input and all that.
The thing is, we try to talk about lifelong learning, but that's also because this is a mantra we've embraced, especially over the last few years. Well, we've to a degree embraced it all our lives, but especially in the last 3 years since we actually started our art journey and our creative journey, I would say the significant amount of growth in terms of mindset and skill is quite leaps and bounds, because sometimes I think back to, oh, what if I had met the person I am today 3 years ago? I would be surprised to think that's me, because the change that I've undergone, and I'm sure Barbara feels the same way,
Yeah,
is
totally.
significant.
Totally. It's kind of crazy to think back to the person that I was once upon a time with all the limiting beliefs that I had and basically the chains that we put on ourselves, right?
Yes.
Thinking that maybe you can never become this person, but then by diligently working on it every day and by learning things every day and really working on that growth mentality, it's kind of crazy where it leads you after a few years.
Yes. And we find ourselves now being more imaginative, more creative in our solutions, and
More
not just
daring also, I
more
think.
daring, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And also very strategic, and not just art pieces, but also in the strategies that we employ for business or for any client or anyone really. So we find that we're becoming more methodical in our approach, where there's a lot of clear intent in every step we take, which is actually an interesting change to see, because especially with me, I would just paint and draw or do art in a very instinctual way, but I find myself being more conscious or conscientious. I'm not, well, being just more mindful
Yeah.
in how I lay down the foundation for my creative pieces.
The thing is, the first step really with self teaching is to find the things that inspire you, I think, or the things that you want to learn. So maybe there's a certain kind of skill that you want to learn, or you want to work on your mindset, or whatever it is. You have to be clear about your goals. So you have to be clear about what it is you want to learn, because only then you can find the teachers that can teach you that specific skill.
Yes. And
Right.
and you might think, okay, teachers, we're talking about self-learning here.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think we want to be clear here. Like, when we talk about self-learning, we're talking in comparison to having a formal education
Yeah.
in, say, graphic design or art or whatever, going to art school. We're self-taught in that sense.
Yes, we have done online a lot of online courses. So we don't have a formal education in art. Um, So in that way, I mean, we have done these courses, so you could say, oh, maybe that's self-taught, but I think it is. I think it is because you're going through the material, and it's not like there's a teacher next to you correcting you, so you're self-correcting as well.
Yes.
So it's still a different journey, I think, than when you have somebody who is ahead of you,
Or peers or
or
other
peers or
students
student,
taking it.
yeah,
Yeah.
teaching you. That, I think that's a different
Yes.
thing still.
So that's why I think it's important to distinguish that, because I think many times people get in their heads that self-learning means that you don't learn from anyone else,
Or
you don't
you
take
figure it out
courses, you
yourself.
figure it out yourself.
I don't think that's the most interesting learning path. I mean, while it can lead to interesting interpretations or interesting roads, it might just take you longer to get to certain
Exactly.
skill. So
In
I
fact, it's
feel
not
like
very efficient to
it's not very
be
efficient. No, yeah,
self-taught in the truest sense is not the most efficient or effective way to
yeah,
grow.
yeah.
So when we're talking about self-learning, it's more you pave your own learning path through the resources, the mentors and teachers you might have around you to guide you, and the online courses you might take, or which might dive into specific detail of your artistic creative journey.
Mm-hmm.
We take so many courses, whether it's typography, graphic design. The other day we did a course on logo design and how to make
Yes.
grids using for logo design. So it was something logo design. So it was very specific stuff, simply because we analyze, okay, what are we missing in terms of our skill set,
Yes.
and we look for examples online, and then maybe there's like a short course or YouTube video that shows you, oh, you
Yeah.
can this is how you do it, and then
Yeah.
you apply it yourself.
Yeah, but basically, this is where it starts. Is like with what sparks that creativity. What is something that you feel like, oh, I want to learn that, because only then you can go search for it.
Yeah,
And
you have
this
to
is,
have goals,
you
right?
have to have these goals, even if it's a mini goal. Like I want to learn how to paint a flower. Okay, then
Yes.
look for a course to paint a flower.
Yes.
It's basically that way that we have learned a lot of things. For me, I've used several platforms. For me, I'm addicted to the domestic
Yes.
courses, so I've done so many courses on that, and yeah, basically I've done every course that kind of sparks my interest at that moment
Of your journey,
of my
exactly, and
journey.
that's how
Yes,
it goes. And it's important to have goals or a direction of your learning, like, okay, where do you want to go next? For us, for example, we've been really going into design more, so we've been learning more and more about logo design, and then we're gonna
and
see,
branding as
and
well.
branding and
Yeah,
brand strategies and things
yeah.
like that.
Not that it's the first time, because I've done these branding courses as well when we
Mm-hmm.
did our before we did our first wedding cards, because our process is similar that way,
Yes.
to figure out the color palette. I found that it's very similar to a branding story, so I have done some courses at that point, but now we're kind of diving deeper
Yes.
in this whole story, which is yeah, which we are finding really interesting at this point.
Yeah, and these are some goals that we want to meet, right? And then we want to be able to add to our portfolio of designs and branding that we've done. It's something basically to build our credibility and our skill and what it is we can do and see what we're capable of.
Yes.
So it's very important to have some direction and goals that you're working towards to make your learn, so that you can determine what kind of resources, courses you need to take, or mentors you need to seek online or
Yes.
whatever.
And the point is also, like, when you find a course or a mentor that you like, find their inspiration, because that way you learn just so much more.
Yes.
I've done a few courses about typography as well, and then through those I found the inspiration of that, and that just blew my mind, because
Yes.
then I found like the leader on this subject, and I got a book of that, and I went on a deep dive afterwards
It's
from him as well,
it's
which,
like if you
yeah.
see someone who is a leader in that field, you follow him on Instagram or any
Mm-hmm.
social media platform, and then see who he follows or she follows.
Yeah, and
And
before you know it, you have a whole network of people that inspire you, and
yes,
that's very powerful because yeah, it will constantly lift you up also.
yes. And these days with reels and TikTok videos and stuff, there are a lot of people who share their process, their tutorials, all of these things. So there's a lot of value you can gain from that also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think another part of, improving your skill is, of course, the practice.
Yes,
You can't just keep
definitely.
looking at online courses or YouTube
Yeah,
videos without having to put the practice
yeah,
and deliberate,
yeah.
consistent
The
practice.
theory alone does not work.
No.
You gotta put the work.
We ourselves, for example, recently, we've spoken about it a few times in the previous episodes. We did the Inktober challenge, which was also practice of sorts because
Definitely.
the goal was to have a piece every day, and the practice was to not just in terms of artistic skill, but testing our creativity
That's like the biggest
and
thing. Yeah.
really chat like putting it through the ringer so that it can feel challenged and so that you're really forced to get creative with your
Mm-hmm.
pieces and very conscientious and putting the time and thought into what it is you put down on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
That was the practice, that was the intent of it, that was the goal behind it, and we
Yes,
did it. And by the end of it, there was a lot of key takeaways, right?
definitely.
Like taking time with your pieces, but at the same time understanding the scope of their pieces, or
Understanding your process as
your
well.
exactly,
That's such a big
exactly.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of things you can gain from it. That's why it's important to practice deliberately,
Mm-hmm.
not just practice.
Sporadically.
Yeah,
Yes.
or just practice every day without any thought, without putting in and trying to understand, oh, how can I improve
Mm-hmm.
compared to the piece I did yesterday? What were the things that I didn't do well, or
Mm-hmm.
what were the things that I could improve on?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it means to practice deliberately.
Yes. Yeah. Just with this, you have to be mindful that you don't, that when you're practicing at that time, that you don't criticize at the same time because that doesn't work. So you need to, when you're drawing or painting or being creative in any way, you need to focus on that. You can review when you're finished or when you're taking a break or whatever, but don't do the same at the same time, the two at the same time, because that does not work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, reviewing comes after.
Yes.
Yes. But speaking of reviewing, that's also a very important part of the process. And that can extend to beyond just you.
Yes.
So ask for feedback, especially from your close circle, peers, experts.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. It's very valuable to ask this. Of course, you have to be mindful of who you ask, and you need to feel safe, and you need to feel ready as well. Um, Although that can be, you don't always feel ready to do it. You
No,
need to do it anyway, so it's a little bit. But yeah, it's very valuable to get feedback also because you have to go about it as in a learning mindset as
yes.
well, not as, oh, somebody will destroy my work. Just try to. Of course, you need constructive feedback as well,
Mm-hmm.
not just, oh, it's bad. That doesn't help you. You need to find the people that will give you feedback that you can work with
Mm-hmm.
as well, right? Like, oh, maybe your shading could be different, or maybe useful things.
Useful
Use
thing. Yeah, yeah. Useful, constructive points on things you can improve or
yeah,
things that could be better or
yes,
whatever,
yeah.
right? That's it's an
And
important
don't
part of
take
the
it. You
journey.
don't take it personal because it's
No.
it's it's about learning. It's about growing, and you have to take it as that as well
Yes.
at
And
that
that's
time.
what it means to have a who do you ask for feedback, right? I mean, if you know the kind of person you're going to ask for feedback is the type of person who's going to not be constructive in their feedback, then yeah,
Then
stay
there's
away
no
from it.
point.
There's no
Yeah, there's
point
no
because
point.
it's not going to help you improve and it's only going to demotivate you
Yeah.
from your journey. So just focus on the right kind of people, your tribe. We've spoken about your tribe.
Hmm.
Have a good tribe where you can show your pieces, get some feedback. And the whole point of feedback is you go back to it, analyze it, and start applying it on your practice.
Yeah.
So
That's the
that
only way to grow.
yeah,
you have to do this for yourself also. You have to also train your critical eye to improve your craft as
Yes.
well. So sometimes you have to put yourself outside of the creator part and analyze your pieces also, just to see, okay, what can I do better next time?
Yes. And that also nicely in a way tells you, okay, where are you at right now on your creative journey?
Mm-hmm.
Because without feedback, you might think you're progressing along your journey, but when you get feedback, you also get an idea of what the world thinks of your pieces. Because
Yes.
especially when you're talking about creativity, art, design, things like that, this is an expression out for the world to see, for people to look at and take it in.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep it to yourself, you're not gonna get any concrete idea of, okay, are your pieces, do people understand it, do people connect with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? This improving the skill part is one thing, but it can give you feedback on skill is not just tied to what you can do with your hand, but it's also the meaning behind
Mm-hmm.
it.
The thing is, it's a bit of a lonely journey sometimes when you are an artist, and it's good sometimes to come outside and see what people think, not just to see if where you're at, how to say that you're not enough, but also
Yes.
in the way that you may be really good,
Yes.
because maybe you're always comparing yourself to the leaders in the field, and maybe you're putting yourself down too much. So that's something that kind of happens to me a lot, is that I don't see necessarily how good something is. Like it's a bit imposter syndrome, although it's gotten a lot better. But this is why it's important to go outside, to talk to people, to get feedback, to show your work. It's really valuable, and really, yeah, it can help you grow as an artist. It
Yeah.
can help you in your self-learning journey as well.
Yes. And also, in fact, showing your work to the world is also a great way to celebrate
Yeah.
the progress and what you've accomplished in terms of your journey. Because you might think, how does that mean, what does that have to do with self-learning? But the thing is, self-learning, why do they have award ceremonies in schools? Why do they have graduation ceremonies? I mean, they could just as well do without it and you'd still get a degree. No, they have it because it's important to celebrate your wins.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of your journey when, especially if you're on your self-learning journey by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
where you feel lonely or you might feel like you're on this journey by yourself, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes that much more important to celebrate a win, to reinforce your conviction for having gone on this journey in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So celebration becomes a huge part of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you put it on social media or showing. One of the things we do is we often take, anytime we work on our pieces, we take our sketchbooks whenever we go visit our parents or a family,
Yeah.
because we like to show it. And it's a way for celebrating having done worked on a piece, and or having on working on a new skill that we show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good and it reinforces, like, okay, maybe we're onto something,
Mm-hmm.
and we get the occasional feedback on something that could be improved or whatever, and we
Mm-hmm.
take it, and
Mm-hmm.
we go from there. But it's never really deterred us from putting our work
No.
out there.
No. 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 I know it can be scary sometimes to do that, but it's a lot more scary, I think, to just be stuck in the same level and to not grow. I think
Yes.
that's where you have to really think of what is more scary, um, for you, really. What is more
Yes.
scary, being stuck and not knowing, or showing it? And maybe some people like it, maybe some people don't. But it doesn't really matter, because you showed up for yourself, and that's something to be proud of. That's not something that everybody dares to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's like Jim Carrey said, right? You got to risk being seen in all your glory. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, be seen in all your glory. Put it
Mm-hmm.
out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's also going to just really help you on your self-learning journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, or an ounce of practice is worth more than tons of preaching. This is
Yes.
by Gandhi, by the way, guys.
Yes. That's a good one because, yeah, be the guy who's letting your work speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about it, show your work
Yeah.
and let other people talk about it.
Yeah.
That was by Charlie, by the way. So
Yeah.
so yes, you especially on these creative journeys. Yes, maybe if you are on a formal course, a formal education or certificate could help. I'm not saying that, and there
And it's
might be
very valuable for
yes,
sure also. It
because
just not hasn't been our path.
yes,
Yeah.
it's not the only way.
Yeah.
There are ways of self-learning, and there are ways, and maybe it's not the most efficient. I don't know. I cannot compare,
Probably not. I don't
but
know. I think there's pros and cons to both of
yes,
them.
exactly. I
Yeah.
think being on a self-learning path has allowed us to have a bit of an out-of-the-box perspective,
Yeah.
especially which especially in a creative field can be very much of a can be a good competitive advantage, especially since your thought process isn't molded by what is taught in art school or design school a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bring fresh ideas that might not necessarily be what a lot of students doing going the formal education path might think about.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of constantly growing, innovating, being challenging yourself.
Yeah. And
And
keep embracing that curiosity.
yes,
It's such an important one. Ask questions. How? Why?
yes. And be persistent, show up every day.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's basically how we do it. And
Yep.
that's how we'll continue to do it.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
bit addictive.
Yes. Especially when after a while you have to always reflect on how far you've come on your
Mm-hmm.
journey. And maybe many of you have not reached that point, and that's why it's always important to celebrate. But after a while you really start to see like, wow, I've come this far in 3 years or 5 years
Yes.
or whatever of
Yes.
hard work and consistent work.
Mm-hmm. Especially the consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the most
Definitely.
important thing.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you found a lot of value from today's episode. If you did, please do like and share with your colleagues, friends, or family, whoever would find a lot of value from this.
Mm-hmm.
And also, please leave a review on any of the podcast channels that you're listening on, because that's always very helpful to our growth.
Definitely. And take a look at our Etsy shop, our social media, if you want to check out our art pieces, or if you want to let us know what you want us to talk about next time, just give us a shout out.
Or share
Or share, yeah.
your stories. We want to hear about your stories too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Stay
that's it.
creative.
Yeah. Stay
Be
creative.
passionate.
Yes.
Keep putting the work, and you got this. Remember,
Yeah.
you got this. Okay.
All right. So we'll see you next time then.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Toodles.